On a windswept, isolated island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a man who once ruled Europe like a colossus found himself trapped within a cage of fate and misfortune. St Helena, the final prison of Napoleon Bonaparte. Stripped of his empire, his power and his armies, this was not the image of the indomitable conqueror who once stood unchallenged on the battlefields of Europe. It was a fallen giant, a legend now reduced to a prisoner of the British. But his exile on St Helena was far more than just a tale of confinement. It was a story filled with intrigue, struggle, bitterness, and reflections that would shape his enduring myth. Upon arriving on this unforgiving volcanic rock in 1815, after his catastrophic defeat at Waterloo, Napoleon's first reaction was a mix of defiance and despair. The island, nearly 1,200 miles from the nearest continent, felt like the end of the world itself, a stark reminder that he had truly lost everything. Longwood House, his designated residence, was a damp, dilapidated building plagued by rats and mould, a far cry from the palatial grandeur of the Tuileries or the splendour of Fontainebleau. The island's unforgiving landscape mirrored his own bleak prospects. No escape, no allies, only time to confront his past decisions and the ghosts of his ambitions. Under the ever-watchful eyes of his British captors, led by the stern and mistrustful Sir Hudson Lowe, Napoleon's every move was scrutinised, every conversation monitored. Napoleon, who once commanded the loyalty of millions, was now allowed no contact with the outside world that wasn't approved by Lowe. Their relationship, fraught with tension and mutual contempt, became a battle of wills. Lowe treated Napoleon with disdain, enforcing strict limitations on his communications and movements, while Napoleon retaliated by refusing to acknowledge Lowe's authority over him, insisting on being called emperor to the bitter end. Life on St Helena was not just a struggle against Lowe or his imprisonment, it was a battle against isolation itself. Surrounded by a small entourage of loyal supporters like Count Las Cases, General Bertrand, and the irascible Gourgaud, Napoleon created a semblance of court life within the walls of Longwood. His days were filled with meticulous routines, his mind still as sharp and strategic as ever. He dictated his memoirs, reliving his past glories at Austerlitz and Marengo, analysing every manoeuvre, every triumph, and every mistake that led him from the peaks of power to this forsaken place. It was as if he sought to immortalise his vision of history, to write the narrative on his own terms before the world could paint him as merely a fallen tyrant. Yet beneath this disciplined exterior, the years of confinement began to take their toll. Napoleon's health deteriorated in the island's damp climate. He suffered from severe stomach pains, fatigue, and the creeping realization that he might never see his homeland again. He oscillated between bouts of energy, where he would defiantly plot imaginary battles, or engage in heated debates with his companions, and periods of profound depression, contemplating the vastness of his downfall. He questioned the loyalty of his allies, the ambition of those who betrayed him, and the fickle nature of power that once lay so easily in his grasp. Napoleon's reflections on St Helena were not just personal grievances. They were critiques of a world he believed had betrayed the ideals of the French Revolution he once sought to protect. He spoke of liberty, equality, and the rights of nations, with a fervour that hinted at his belief in a destiny unfulfilled. He saw himself as a martyr to the cause of progress, a man ahead of his time who was misunderstood by lesser men who feared the change he represented. His thoughts grew increasingly philosophical, contemplating not only the battles lost on fields, but also the battles lost within the hearts of men. And then there was the mystery of his death, a shadow that still lingers over his legacy. In 1821, at the age of 51, Napoleon died on St Helena, his body ravaged by pain. Officially, the cause was listed as stomach cancer, yet whispers of foul play have persisted throughout the centuries. Some believe he was slowly poisoned by arsenic, a theory fueled by the autopsy reports and hair samples that suggest high levels of the toxin. Did his enemies conspire to hasten his demise, fearing his influence even in defeat? Or was his death simply the final act of a life consumed by the fire of ambition, and crushed by the weight of its own expectations. Even as he lay dying, Napoleon's mind remained active. His final words reportedly murmured to the memory of his greatest loves: France, the army, Josephine. It was as though, even in his last moments, he was leading his troops one final time, charging forward into the unknown, never truly defeated. The exile on St Helena transformed Napoleon from a mere mortal ruler into a legend, a tragic hero, and a symbol of defiance against a world that sought to control him. His myth only grew stronger in death as Europe debated his legacy. Was he a tyrant who nearly plunged the continent into chaos, or a visionary who dared to dream of a unified Europe under a new order? His exile became more than a punishment. It became the crucible that solidified his legend, turning the man into a myth that would inspire generations to come. Napoleon's time on St Helena is not just the story of a fallen emperor. It is the story of a man who refused to bow to fate, who continued to fight battles of the mind even when the battles of the field were lost. It is the untold story of resilience, of a spirit unbroken by exile, and of a legacy that refused to die on the cold winds of an isolated island. Napoleon Bonaparte, even in his final days, was never truly defeated. His ideas, his strategies, and his dreams lived on, far beyond the shores of St Helena, shaping the world in ways even he could not have foreseen.